So my name is Răzvan Todor. I'm working in product management at Bitdefender. And for the past 2 years, we've been building and launching the Bitdefender Box project, which is cybersecurity for IoT, for your smart homes, basically. And this presentation is about the lessons that I learned in these 2 years. Okay, so to start with the beginning and with the actual synopsis of the presentation, how do you navigate the line between form and functionality, and how can you maximize both without becoming an extremist in either side? And of course, as the man is asking, is it too much to ask for both? I think not. I think you can have both, but I think it's important that we are aware of both and we try to intentionally aim for both. And I'm saying this because I think that mainly in our industry, we do have this tendency of focusing on the functionality and trying to build the best product there is, the most valuable product, very techy, very savvy and everything. And we also pride ourselves with the fact that we're not here to win any beauty contest. But in the world of reviews, comments, stars, ratings, feedback posted everywhere by everyone, not only professional reviewers, you got to ask yourself, what's a bigger disappointment? Is it ugly or stupid? Now, just to start the presentation on the right note, I'm going to be talking about products that are built for the consumer area, not enterprise, and while both do share some common ground, they're really not the same and they should not be addressed the same. And also, I'm going to be talking about product management, not project management. So I'm not going to be saying, okay, here's how one should build a very organized product, but rather about what kind of product you should build so that it brings value in the eyes of your users. All right. The vision. And I'm starting with the vision because it is probably the most important thing that the product manager should have. You actually should know where you want to get, because let's face it, at some point you know that you have to build something. It's either because you actually feel it yourself, you want to build something, or in most cases, you got to justify your existence in the company. So the boss says, okay, you got to build something. Now, you got to dig deep and understand what it is that you want to build. You have to set this like a North Star, and you know you want to get there. You have no idea how you want to get there, or you don't know exactly all the details about what there is, but you have to build this vision, this image of what it is that you want to build. And to do this, I would advise to look into 3 areas: the reality, the surrounding world, your labs, and your competition. And you look in the world and see what threats are rising, what's happening lately, what's very hip, like DDoS attacks or brute forcing or whatever. What areas are rapidly changing, but also look at what areas don't seem to change, what hasn't been changing in a long time, and now it has just the slightest hint of change. And I think that's one of the most interesting areas to look at. And then look in the labs, see what they brag with, what they show you, what they come up with, and then try to understand how you can use this in the real world, because the labs do have a tendency to bring you quite a raw technology, so you have to package it a little bit to make sense in the real world. And then look at the competition. What are they failing with? What are they gaining market with? Where are they winning? I advise you to read, if possible, the financial statements, because that will give you a pretty good idea how they see the market and where they see themselves in the next few years, and that will give you more of a strategic look of things. And now that you know what you want to build and what it is that you want to protect against and how you're going to do it and how will that position you against the competition, you really should change focus completely and look at this whole thing from the user perspective. It's very early in the game, and it's exactly the point where you should think about the user. Does this exist in the real world? I mean, for sure it exists because you saw it, but do your users see it? Does it exist for them? Do they perceive this as a threat, as a worry? Do they have this problem? Does your technology solve a problem for them? Can you, at this early stage, match every major feature in your vision to a perceived value or an existing perceived problem in the reality? Can you do this match? Because not, you got to go back to thinking about the vision. And now that, just a second, please. Now that you kind of know what you want to build, it's time to go back into your organization and get people on board and build this product. And as you're preaching your vision inside your teams, you will soon realize that they do group into two sides. You will have your techies here with R&D and development and analysis and quality assurance and architects and everything here. And then you will have, let's say, the marketing people, marketing, sales, the C-level, the guys with the money, I don't know, conversion analysts, UX designers, everything here. And really, there will be fine people in both sides, no question about it, but they will also be very, very vocal, and they will not be shy of telling you exactly what your product should look like, exactly what it needs to do or how it needs to do it, and things like this. And of course, they will also not be shy telling you that if you don't do like they say, your product will be a major failure, it has no value, and so on. Now, this is a very good position to be in, because it means that both sides actually care about this, and they're very involved, and they really want to build something that they trust in. So what you can do now is listen to them and become more of an idea filter rather than an idea creator, because I will explain what I mean. If you're an idea creator, like I'm a product manager, and this is my vision, this is how I build my product, you only use your own mind and your own experience, and you build something and you bring it to the world. But if you're an idea filter, you can actually harvest everyone around you, all the developers, all the analysts, the R&D, and everybody that has something to say will be able to come, say what they have to say, and you will get to decide whether it makes sense, whether you want your product to take it in that way or not. And the only way you can do this is if you're asking all the questions. And I'm going to stress this subject because it's an important strength that you have, and for me it was quite hard in the beginning because asking questions made me feel like I didn't get it, like I was the stupid one in the room. And it was a bit difficult to overpass that and really ask all the questions until I really got it. And as a friend once told me, I was about to take a really bad decision because I just asked why, I got an answer, and I was like, okay, let's go. I wasn't really happy with the answer. I didn't really understand the answer, but I was about to get on with it. So no, you should actually ask all the questions until you're really happy with the answer and you really understand why it takes 3 months or not 2 days, or even worse, why it takes 2 days and not 3 months, and what is the impact on your infrastructure, or how the users are going to use it, or how is that going to position you against the competition and everything. Just ask all the questions all the time, because next to the vision, everything that happens in this product is really your responsibility. Every decision taken, it will really come down to your responsibility. So we really have to understand everything and harvest everyone around you. Now that you build your product and you launched it into the market, and you're quite happy and proud of what you did, it's the perfect MVP, it really proves your technology and everything, people will start talking about it, it will get reviewed and everything, and it's the perfect moment to ask yourself, what will make your users speak? Is it going to be frustration or excitement? And make no mistake, other than professional reviewers that do this for a living, or your very close relatives, nobody will speak about it unless really frustrated or really excited. Nobody mildly content with your product will bother to write a review saying, oh, I'm mildly content with this product, so here, 3 stars. This is why the majority of ratings that you get on platforms like Amazon on any product is either 1 or 5 stars, because people will speak out of frustration or excitement. So I was looking at the reviews we were getting, and we saw some reviews saying, oh, your product is completely useless, it's really hard to install, it affects my internet speed, the interaction with the customer support was really bad, so everything was bad. And then we see a lot of really good reviews saying, oh, it was really, really easy to install your product, and it really didn't affect my internet speed, and it's really great value for money, and people, the guys at customer support, they're really great guys, and they helped me a lot. And as I was reading these reviews and looking at them, I started asking myself, really what's missing here? Because something was clearly missing. And it was protection. Nobody said anything about protection. They didn't say anything that, okay, I got hacked, or I got infected, or you let me access a phishing page, or you really protected me. I was about to get hacked, or anything about protection, nothing. So it was really time we talked to our users about security. And here you will see two comments written on the same product by two different people. One of them complains that we don't give them the detailed logs and they cannot analyze everything that's going on and they cannot understand what we're doing, so they cannot troubleshoot their own problems. Whereas the other one is complaining that he doesn't know what an IP is, so really our product makes no sense to them. So basically bad, both of them, but at the really opposite ends of the same spectrum. So what can you do? How can you answer to both? Because if you take either one, you can answer. It's easy. You can solve any problem. But what if you have only one answer? How do you modify your product so that you make them both happy? And in the end, should you actually aim to make them both happy? Because I'm really going back to the MVP product, the mythical way to launch your product in the market these days. But that's just a proof of concept. It proves that your technology works. I think we should really be talking about the minimum lovable product. And it's not my term. There's some people at the company called Leverage that coined this term, but I really think they're onto something because they define the minimum lovable product as the product that brings you the maximum amount of love from your earliest adopters. Or as some guy at Y Combinator said, Sam Altman, it's far better to build something that a small amount of people love rather than something that everybody likes. Because remember, they will speak out of frustration or excitement. So it's time we started thinking about feature versus feeling. And at this point, I should really be talking to you about the cake mix. You see, back in the 50s, there was a company that brought to the market the cake mix. And it was a really cool deal. It was everything you needed you just added water, bake it, and it was, boom, fresh cake on the table. They were doing user research back in the days as well, and everybody agreed that it tastes great, it smells great, it looks great, it's a great cake, it's awesome. The only problem was that sales were really bad and nobody knew why. So they started thinking about it, and at some point they realized that, well, people didn't feel like they were doing anything. So what they did was they removed the dehydrated eggs from the mix, and now you had to go to the market, buy eggs, come home, put the eggs in the mix, put water, mix everything, bake it, boom, the same cake, same taste, same look, but now everybody loved it because they started feeling that they were doing something. They started feeling that, okay, I put a cake on the table for you. So they related to the product. Now, the thing is, how can you make your users feel the good things about your product? What are your fresh eggs in this situation? I think at this point, really you should be able to look at the code. And of course, you're in this industry, so you can look at a code and go like, okay, this is a beautiful piece of code. But you have to understand that a beautiful piece of code means absolutely nothing in the world. It has no value. You have to understand that the most important features of your product, the ones that really keep your user safe, are completely invisible to the user, and what they see is completely something else. So put it simply, nobody wants an intrusion detection system or an algorithm that detects anomalies in their users' behavior and things like this. What they want is really to feel that their kids are safe when they're online, that their payments are secure, and their photos remain private. Hopefully, but at least you can try. So that their photos remain private and shared only with who they choose to share them with. So at this point, we started thinking, what is security for our users? What does it mean? Is it blocking malicious URLs, preventing them from accessing phishing? Is it blocking attacks, closing ports, or whatever? And it hardly is that for our users. It's usually in our product is this idea that their home is not an invisible mumbo-jumbo of devices that they don't even know how many or what devices, in an invisible Wi-Fi and everything floats around. It's actually everything organized in a little neat list they can interact with. They see exactly who's connected to their home. They push a button, they see if they have any vulnerability. They push a button, they cut the internet connection, and so on. They actually feel that they're interacting with the product. So we realized that really that is the point. Nobody really wants to rationally reach the conclusion that they are protected. Nobody really wants to analyze logs. Nobody really wants to, especially they don't want to trust the company that they protect them. What they need is they need to feel protected. So let me emphasize this. They need to feel protected, not know that they're protected. All right. Now that you build your product and you've taken into consideration all the ins and outs and the outside and the inside of your product and everything, and you build your product and it's technically viable and emotionally appealing and everything is great, let me ask you again, what's next? What now? Now, a few years ago in a cornfield, Kevin Costner, in a movie, heard a voice saying, "Build it and they will come." And what this was about, it was actually about build your product, build your vision, do a great job while doing it, and people will find out about it and they will show up and they will use it and everything will be great. Now, my grandfather had the same idea, by the way. He always dreamt about owning his own grocery shop, and he will sell the freshest food, the best food there is. People will find out about it, and it will be a great success. They will line up in front of his store, and boom. Sadly, this was somewhat true back in the days when my grandfather's brain was not attacked every second by mental stimuli fighting for his focus. In the meantime, science has actually proved that a goldfish can actually focus a second longer than our highly evolved but very stressed brain. What this means for your users is that they will lose focus incredibly fast. This means that the chances that they will take time and discover your wonderful features are quite slim, if really non-existent. So what can you do in this situation? Well, you have to hold their hands the minute they install the product. The second they install the product, hold their hands, teach them a trick, show them how to do something, and they will actually start having a relation with your product. They would have done something, and they feel that the product is doing something for them. I'm going to share with you another story of a friend of mine who joined the gym recently, and she paid for a personal trainer and one-on-one sessions and everything, and they got really sciencey on her. They measured the body fat percentage, muscle mass, everything. So she started showing up, did everything right for the first few weeks, and then she got measured again. And what do you know? Body fat percentage hasn't moved, muscle mass has actually gone down, so it was really kind of a failure. But while this is normal and can sometimes happen in the beginning, where did the instructor go wrong? You see, she didn't focus on proving to her client immediately that they spent money on something valuable. She didn't focus on helping the client reach this conclusion that, okay, I bought something valuable and it does something for me in return. She just expected for her client to get on with the program and to wait for the results to show up in the normal way. Yeah, we're all goldfish. So that's the point. For us, once you install the product, it immediately scans your network. It tells you, okay, you have this many devices in your home, some of them that you don't even know about. We scan them for vulnerabilities, and we tell you, look, out of these 12 devices that you have, 3 of them are vulnerable, so you should really change your default password on this one. And about that Chinese IP camera, maybe you should really throw it away because it has a backdoor in it, and it's really bad news. So we're teaching them to do something. This is our trick with them. In your products, I don't know, but remember that we're all goldfish. I am a goldfish, so teach me a trick in the first 8 seconds, preferably, and I will absolutely like your product. All right. Now, just in case in the meantime, lunch took over and you're kind of sitting there wondering who am I and what I'm doing here, fear not, because I have the really compressed version of this presentation, also known as 5 things to take home with you. First, remember to ask all the questions all the time until you really understand everything that goes on around you. Because, especially in our industry, things tend to be very complex, very deep, they go very deep, and you will not be able to control all the details all the time. So it's important to understand everything that goes on around you. Second, when it comes to R&D and UX, very loud voices, hear them both, don't favor any, and like in politics, keeping them equally unhappy is actually a good compromise. Keeping them equally happy, I don't know, I haven't seen that, but you're welcome to try. When it comes to your users, do the exact opposite. Choose a niche, choose a group, and make them love you, and don't try to make everybody like you, and you will be great on the long run. Remember that your product's biggest strengths are usually invisible for the user. So don't expect your users to value your product for this. Try to always match with something upfront that is visible and they understand. And we are all goldfish. Remember that in the first few seconds, few minutes, you really have to teach me a trick and make me feel that I understand your product and that your product does something for me. And the main idea of this presentation, of this gap between R&D and UX, is to be actually aware that there is a gap. There is a gap between what we're building our products to do and what the users see our products as doing. So I'm done. Thank you. And if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Usman. We'll be taking the first question here in the first row. And we'll be taking 6 questions in total, so be fast.
He's always fast. Yeah, that's what he wanted to say.
So you're building this box thing, stuff that protects homes. Would you say that, what would you say is the target audience for your product?
Somebody smarter than me.
A hand of applause, guys. Yeah. Woo-hoo.
I'm good. The target audience, you say.
The target audience or the target audiences, and actually follow-up question, why? Why did you select those target audiences? What do you expect them to perceive in your product? What do you expect them to see in your product?
Well, it clearly is not for the very advanced. And I think we actually followed the trend, and we saw that the market is going towards smart homes.
Trend micro, or?
That too, because you have to look at your competition. So we see that the market is going towards smart homes. The adoption rate of smart devices is actually incredibly fast or high, however you want to say it. So we actually targeted normal people, normal houses, living normal lives, because the IoT devices are spreading at an incredible rate. So not only the techiest, the savviest, or the early adopters are getting them anymore. It's something on the mass market. And this is what makes it more dangerous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a second question in the first row to the right. You know, Razvan, I had this thought of testing the crates, like in one
I
crate.
tested them for you, it's okay.
I was like, could I maybe sit on one of them? But I never got to that part.
Should I try them all?
One by one. For each question, one crate.
The smartphone, the smart home adoption is much more wider year by year. However, there's a portion of people that are still very paranoid about all this. And do you have any tactic to convince these people that these devices are safe or something?
So you're talking about the people that are really paranoid and they will not adopt them.
They really get into the sort of like sci-fi scenario.
Well, the quick answer is no. We will not, because, and I will give you let's say the business answer. There's this the distribution of your user, it's like a bell, of course, like everything in life. And here you have a small portion which are the early adopters, a small number of people which will jump into the new technology. And then after a while, you get all these people, and they're like, let's say, the normal people, okay? They will adopt this technology in due time, some earlier, some later, and so. And then you're talking about this end of the spectrum, and they will almost never adopt this. So from a business point of view, it makes no sense to target them because it will be really, really difficult to get it, or if you'll ever get it, okay? Plus, we're not trying to convince people to adopt this, we're just trying to protect people who have already adopted this.
Thank you.
Thank you. People in the first row are amazingly active. I just love you guys. So we're gonna stay in the first row here. Raise your hands. Was there anyone in the back there with questions? No. Okay.
It was a very nice presentation. My question is regarding the cultural knowledge, so the concepts which are hyped by the media and by the marketing departments, and how do you take into consideration in the new products what the marketing messages are on a specific market or on a specific user base?
Well, I think the problem is, or the answer is the other way around, because you're not really taking into consideration the messages. You build your messages to hit something that exists in the market. So you try to find what are the triggers that exist in the market and what kind of messaging can you do to hit those triggers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a really nice presentation.
Thank you.
And this question is related to Bitdefender box. So is your Bitdefender
Please keep the
box,
microphone a bit closer.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
That's good, actually. So is your Bitdefender box secure RF communication attacks, like over the Zigbee or other Wi-Fi or something?
So this is something that it was one of the arguments with the tech side.
Oh, okay.
So probably in the future it will be. Right now, no. It doesn't cover any alternative protocols like Zigbee, Z-Wave, or Bluetooth, or whatever.
Thank you.
He wanted it. I said no. And the reason why I said no was that those are really proximity attacks. So we went for the wider range of attacks, the one that can be like mass attacks. For a Zigbee attack, you're more or less targeted, for example.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice, and
There.
so, okay.
So you're saying you should focus
A bit
on...
closer, please, the mic.
Okay. So you're saying you should focus on a few number of users loving your product as opposed to lots of people being merely content with it?
Yeah, ideally.
So do people actually love security products? That doesn't really translate to the physical world. Like, think of bike locks.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, and I think the answer to that question can be an entire book, because I think cybersecurity is one of the most difficult areas in which you can actually produce something like love or excitement. But it's more like insurance. People don't really excited about your product. They just want it to be there to protect you if something goes wrong. So this is why I'm saying that there is a gap, and that we should really be aware of the UX part and try to come up with things that will make people interact with your product and understand it. Because let's face it, the fact that you're creating a guest network, it's only marginal for protection, but it gives the user the chance to interact with your product. The fact that you give them a chance to scan their product, their devices for vulnerabilities is, again, marginal, because you can do that automatically and just tell them, but you give them a chance to interact. So exactly having this in mind, that it's very difficult to create some sort of interest in the cybersecurity from your users, you should find ways to interact with them that don't really have to do with them understanding what intrusion detection is, you know.
And our last question, on to the right.
Hello. Well, you said that basically the product scans everything that you have in your house, everything smart, let's say. And by doing this, you're going to have a lot of enemies because...
So can you repeat the first part of the question?
So the product scans everything smart, let's say in your house, your TV, your whatever. And you're going to say, okay, this XYZ brand has an issue, has a backdoor, and we've seen things like this also for big brands, for TVs. Let's just take a random example. How are you going to cope from the, let's say, the business side of things, from the business side of things, the enemies, let's say, that you're going to get?
Well, I think there are two different answers to this. What Box does is it scans for known vulnerabilities. So if I find a CVE in your LG TV, it's already there. It's already documented. You can find it on mitra.org, for example. So, just a second. So you're really not breaking anything. It's known information. You're actually doing your user a favor. Look, it's documented there. All somebody like Jay has to do is just look it up, and then they can hack you. But the other part, and I will let Jay speak immediately, the other part is there's such thing as ethical disclosure or something. You find something, you let them know, and then you start to talk about it.
Unfortunately, we have to close the session.
Just one comment, because it's very important.
Your comment will be the last one, really short.
It's very brief. They don't care, dude. Really, they don't. In 90% of all of our findings, and because we also do vulnerability research on IoTs, 90%, more than 90%, don't care.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Razvan, and
Thank you.
it's a wrap.